Honorable VC sir, I seek your permission. Should we start the proceedings for today?
Yes, please start.
Yeah. Uh, Respected Chancellor sir, respected Vice Chancellor sir, respected colleagues, uh, respected Shantanu Chakraborty sir, respected other distinguished guests present, and today we are distinctly honored and privileged to have with us Mr. B. Muthuraman, who was the ex-chairman of Tata International Limited and ex-vice chairman of Tata Steel Limited. It's really a matter of great pleasure to be hearing the golden words from you, sir. I just want to introduce you, although you're very well known, but still it's our responsibility to welcome you on behalf of the university and share your brief biography, sir. So born on 26th September 1944, Mr. Muthuraman had his early college education at the Madras Christian College, and he holds a degree of Bachelor in Technology in Metallurgical Engineering from IIT Madras and a Masters of Business Administration from XLRI, Jamshedpur, India. He has also completed the Advanced Management Program at European Center for Executive Development, CEDEP, France, and has undergone the Challenge of Leadership Program at INSEAD, France. Mr. Muthuraman joined Tata Steel in 1966 and has held various positions at the company, including Vice President Marketing and Sales and Vice President Cold Rolling Mill Projects. He was appointed as Executive Director in 2000, Managing Director of the company in 2001, and Non-Executive Vice Chairman in 2009. He had held board positions in a large number of organizations. He was on the board of International Iron and Steel Institute for several years and in its executive committee for 4 years. He served on the board of Global Compact of the United Nations for 4 years. He served on the board of Bosch India Limited for 6 years. He was also on the boards of Tata Industries Limited. He was the chairman of the board of governors of IIT, Kharagpur, NIT Jamshedpur, and XLRI Jamshedpur. He was chairman of several Tata Steel Group companies like Nat Steel Singapore, Tata Steel Thailand, Tinplate Company of India Limited, Dhamra Port Company Limited, Tata Sponge Limited, and Tata Martgrade International Logistics Limited. Currently, he is on the boards of Sundaram Fasteners Limited of TVS Group, Narayana Hrudaya Limited, and Ashirvad Pipes Limited, the Indian subsidiary of Aliaxis, the Belgium company, who are the largest plastics pipe manufacturers of the world. He is also associated with 3 management schools, namely Xavier University Bhubaneswar, SDMIMD Mysore, and School of Inspired Leadership Delhi. He is associated with 2 NGOs as well, namely Preja Foundation, a joint venture between PAN IIT and Jharkhand for skill development, and Nudge Foundation Bangalore, working in the area of skill development. He was also the president of the Confederation of Indian Industry, CII, during the year 2011-12. Under his visionary leadership, Tata Steel became a truly global company. The acquisition of Chorus UK and Netherlands in 2007, a landmark event not only in the history of Indian steel industry, but also in the history of India, which demonstrated the coming of age of Indian companies on the global map. Mr. Muthuraman had been conferred with the prestigious Padma Bhushan Award in 2012 from Government of India for his significant contribution to Indian trade and industry. He received the Distinguished Alumnus Award from IIT Madras in 1997 and from Madras Christian College in 2014, and the Tata Gold Medal from the Indian Institute of Metals in 2002. He also received the CEO of the Year Award from Business Standard in 2005, CEO with HR Orientation Award from World HRE Congress in 2005, Economic Times Award for Corporate Excellence in 2008, and IIM GRD Tata Award conferred by Indian Institute of Metals. He was bestowed an honorary degree of Doctor of Human Letters, honoris causa, from Loyola University, Chicago. He has been bestowed an honorary degree of Doctor of Science, honoris causa, from Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur. Recently, XRI Jamshedpur has conferred him with the Lifetime Achievement Award. In addition to all his distinguished achievements, he is also an avid golfer, a cricket enthusiast, and is widely traveled. It's again a distinct honor, a big prestige for all of us to hear from you, sir. We take this opportunity to welcome you on behalf of University of Engineering and Management, Kolkata. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Chancellor. Thank you first of all for this very generous introduction. I'm not sure whether I deserve all that is written over there. I have not written it. I think somebody else has written it, this piece. But all the same, thank you very much for the introduction. I want to first check with all of you whether my voice is clear, whether I'm appearing on the screen properly.
Clear, sir. Absolutely clear, sir.
Absolutely clear.
Okay.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Okay, so let me start by saying that it always gives me great pleasure to address a group of faculty members and teachers. If I'm not mistaken, there are how many teachers or how many faculty members would be in this program?
Sir, somewhere between 125 to 150, around that number.
All of them are in the teaching profession or in the education field?
Sir, all of us are faculty members. And in addition, we are also connected with YouTube Live. So many members from UEM Jaipur and IEM Kolkata, they will also be watching this program live, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. And as I said, it is always a great pleasure for me to speak to, talk to, address a gathering of faculty members and teaching professionals. Because it is really the teachers who shape the mind of youngsters. And it is the youngsters, when they grow up and as they grow up, who shape the destiny of a nation. So teachers have a very important part and an important role in the development and maturity of a nation, and where the nation aims, to go, or what is the direction the nation is taking. So first of all, my salute to all the teachers for doing an outstanding job in nation building. I myself have had wonderful teachers in my life. In fact, during the course of my maybe a half an hour, 40-minute talk today, I'm going to refer to at least one professor who actually changed the course of my life and made a very big difference to what I was going to do in my life over the last 50, 60 years of professional career. Let me start by saying that I hail from a small village. Actually, the village where I was born had probably at that time had a population of some, 15,000, 20,000 or so. It had one school, one nationalized school, and a couple of elementary schools, and all kinds of roads, and not a very well-developed place. And I was also born in a middle-class family. And my father worked he was in the defense accounts. So he was sort of moving from place to place throughout his career, from Meerut to Jhansi to Katni and Ambernath and Calcutta, and variety of such places. So since he was getting transferred every 3 years, I had no stable school life to start with. In fact, for the first 5-6 years, I did not attend school. In fact, it was my father who taught me at the house. He was a very good teacher, but he was also a very stern teacher. And he was, I always remember him because he was he was not easily satisfied with anything. And every time I did something, he will give me a test or exam in the house just to see how I'm progressing. If I get 90, he will say, what happened to the 10 marks? If I get 95, he will ask, what happened to the 5 marks? So that's the way he used to behave. And that sort of irritated me quite a lot when I was at the young age. Because how can this man, sort of not praise me for what I have done, but always telling me what about the balance marks and what about 5 marks and 2 marks and 10 marks and so on. It is only slowly and gradually as I grew up, I realized the importance of taking an attitude where you always seek to do things which you have not been able to do. You always search for things that you have missed out. And it is actually a good lesson that I had. As I said, I studied at home for the first 6-7 years. Then when I joined my school on the 6th standard, I was by far the youngest student in the class, by probably 2 or 3 years compared to the average age of the class. And in every class, it was used to be like that. And I had a big inferiority complex. And it was all Tamil medium because it was what is available where I studied with my grandfather. My father was getting transferred all the time. And in the 6th standard, I joined where my grandfather lived in the village where I was born. And then I joined Madras Christian College in Madras, which is one of the foremost educational institutions that one can come across. It is probably now more than 200 years old or maybe 175 years old or more. And it is one of the finest colleges where, of course, the medium of instruction was English. And as a Tamil medium student, I could not follow what was happening in the class. Absolutely, I had no idea what was happening in the class. I struggled for quite a few months. But I worked hard. And at the end of the year, in fact, sometimes when I look back on what happened, I am myself amazed about what I did. In the entire class of 134 students of pre-university course in Madras Christian College, I actually had the highest marks in advanced English. It was something quite remarkable because that sort of taught me that you can actually achieve anything in life if you put your mind to it. Here was a Tamil medium boy, and most of the people used to tell me that you have to take a special coaching, your English is not good, you can't speak well, you can't write well, and all that. But and then later on, I always, even today, when I talk to youngsters, I always tell them that, look, never ever derate your, mother tongue. And what you learn in mother tongue is something which actually goes straight into your heart and straight into your brain. We often think that only English medium schools are important, and only if you study in English medium school, you can sort of become CEOs of the company or managing directors of the company and so on. It's actually not correct. And we need to inculcate that mindset in our students, in our college students and school students, that learning has no barrier in terms of language in which you learn things. Learning is something which comes from a knowledge creating subject to one's heart and one's mind. Language is just a medium. It's not a very important thing that you need to be only English to be able to do well in life or do well in a career and so on. So that is one thing that really satisfied me. Then I wrote IIT entrance examination in 1961, and there also was a drama. The examination, it was the first time IIT had a competitive examination for the very first time. Before 1961, there was no competitive examination because nobody knew what these IITs were. You just applied and you got it if your marks were good. If you didn't get it, if the marks are not good. But for the first time ever, the competitive examination was held in 1961. I had applied for writing the examination, and I was staying in Chennai with my aunt, and I was late for the examination by almost 10 minutes, or 9.5, or probably 10 minutes I was late. I was stopped at the gate saying that I am not qualified to write the exam because I'm late by 10 minutes, and 10 minutes is a cutoff time for being on time. So I really fought with that person who told me that I cannot write the exam. I told him that, look, it is only 9 minutes and half. It is not exactly 10 minutes yet, but if you talk to me anymore, it will become 10 minutes. So please allow me to sit down in the examination. And if after I sit in the examination, then you can decide whether I am eligible to sit in the examination or not. And so when he saw me, fighting like this and having persistence and tenacity of wanting to write the exam, he somehow allowed me to write in the exam. So the first paper, there were 4 papers over a period of 2 days exam those days. They were all writing. It is not like today's objective questions where you tick mark things and you don't know whether the tick mark is by luck or by actual fluke or by real knowledge. But those days you have to actually write the examination for a period of 3 hours. So first was the maths exam, then in the afternoon was English, next day was chemistry, and that second day afternoon was physics. So first day maths exam, where I was late by about 10 minutes or so, when I saw the question paper, I was shocked because only 5 questions out of 10 were from the syllabus of the Madras University, where I had studied pre-university in Madras Kitchen College. So there is no question of my even attempting anything more than 5 questions. So I said, let me do my best with these 5 questions. I wrote the exam, and after the maths paper was over at lunchtime, the second paper was English, and I found that only half the number of boys had turned up in the hall. So after the end of the day, I inquired with my friends, what happened? Why did the people come? They said the maths paper was so tough. Then we said there is no way in which we can get admission to IIT. So we didn't want to waste our time. Some of us went to movies, some of us went somewhere else, some of us went to play cricket. So I said, now then I must even try harder. So the next day I wrote the exam even better. And I got a decent rank in IIT Madras those days for almost missing the examination by 10 minutes. And that sort of always told me that, look, you must never ever give up in life. You must never give up. And some of these qualities are, for example, if I had agreed with that fellow that I was late for the examination and not eligible to write, I would not have written the IIT examination. And I would not have sort of passed. I would not have probably become anything that I actually became in life, whatever little that I could achieve in life it was. So there are all great lessons. In life, what happens is all of us go through experiences, but it is not that all of us learn from experiences. Many of us, some of us, I have this habit, which I'll come to later, of writing down some of my experiences in the form of diaries and then looking at it once in 6 months or once in a year or something where you can learn. It is not that some of us go through experiences and some of us don't. All of us go through very similar experiences. But how many of us remember to reflect on that experiences, and how many of us remember to learn and introspect and reflect on those experiences is actually the foundation of a self-development plan or a self-improvement process. So I joined IIT by a sort of whisker of that 10 minutes of that fellow allowing me to write an examination. Then I studied. I was a reasonably good student. And at the end of that 5 years, I got an opportunity. I, in fact, had 2 opportunities. Those days, the job market was very poor. And I had 2 opportunities. One was Tata Steel had come around for selection. I got selected as a graduate trainee of Tata Steel. And those days, salary was 400 rupees per month for the trainee, for the graduate trainee in Tata Steel. First year was 400 rupees and second year was, I think, 425 or something like that. Fortunately for me, I had an outstanding professor of metallurgy, Professor Dr. E.G. Ramachandran. And he also, since I was a reasonably good student, he helped me to get an admission in University College of Los Angeles, UCLA, UCLA, in Los Angeles, in material science, under a professor called A.G. Quarrel, who was at that time an extremely well-known material science scientist in the United States and a very recognized figure in the whole world. This is about 60 years ago almost. And so he got me a scholarship of $400 a month. So as soon as a few days or 1 or 2 days after I got the offer from Tata Steel, I also got this letter from University College of Los Angeles through Professor Ramchandran saying that you have been admitted to this MS course in material science, and you are also granted a scholarship of $400 a month. So here I was sort of completely out of the world. I said $400 in 1966 was a fantastic amount of money, and much higher than the scholarships that are available in the US universities nowadays. So for me, there was no option. I didn't think there is a choice to be made at all. I said one is 400 rupees and one is $400, and I know which is higher and which is lower. So it is easy for me to make a decision, and I had already made up my mind. After making up my mind that I will that evening or that night I will write to University of College of Los Angeles that I have decided to join them, I next evening or that same evening I went to meet Professor Ramchandran actually to thank him for getting me this scholarship and sending me admission in University of College of Los Angeles. Then some miracle happened. He made me sit with him for some 2 hours, and he talked to me about India, he talked to me about steel industry, he talked about Tata Steel, he talked about the group of, the Tata Group, that what kind of group it is. He said he used to be assistant director in a place called National Metallurgical Laboratory, which is so located in Jamshedpur for some years. So he knew Jamshedpur life. He changed my whole mind in a period of 2 hours, and created some kind of a nationalistic fervor in me, saying that you are far better off and India is far better off. There are too many people going abroad and utilizing India's effort to the betterment of lots of other countries and lots of other nations. So please don't be like that. And I actually changed my mind at the end of the 2 hours of conversation with Professor E.G. Ramchandran. I'll never forget it, because if there is one instance, if there is one event that completely changed my life in my entire career and entire life, including in Tata Steel, is actually Professor Ramchandran's advice to me to change my mind from joining University of College of Los Angeles to join Tata Steel in the year 1966. It's something which I'm completely indebted to. And in fact, Dr. Ramchandran died only 2-3 years back at the age of 95 or so. And we, some of our classmates together, and I sort of took the lead because I happened to be in touch with him for many years. When I was in Jamshedpur, I had even called him and his wife to come and spend a week in Jamshedpur for him to see our plant and to spend some time with me and be in my house for some time. And we in fact established a chair in Professor E.G. Ramchandran's name in IIT Madras. So what I am trying to say is teachers have a fantastic role to play in a person's life. And in the teacher's role that that they play in many of our lives, very often we underestimate, and we don't give enough credit or enough recognition to the teachers who have shaped our lives and shaped our career. And I will never ever forget Professor E. Ramchandran for what he did. So I joined Tata Steel thanks to Professor Ramchandran's very sort of sagely advice. And I joined Tata Steel in 1966, and I was in the blast furnace department. I started in manufacturing. Although I was there only for 5 or 6 years in manufacturing, I always recommend to youngsters nowadays when I see that when you join a job after you have graduated, don't look for soft jobs. It is the difficult jobs, it is the hard jobs, it is the jobs on the shop floor that actually shape the mind of you for a leadership position later on in life. It just happened that after 5 or 6 years, I had an opportunity to do a management course in XLRI, and I did the management course, and then the management sort of selected me to go as applications engineer in Bangalore in 1976. And then I did my marketing job for many years, and for many years, nothing really happened in my career. I used to get sort of very frustrated. So I took up teaching. In fact, I was doing marketing of special steels. I said the one way of knowing about marketing and learning marketing is to teach the subject. So in Bangalore, there is a management school used to be a management school called St. Joseph College of Business Administration. So I took classes in the evening class. I used to work from about 9 in the morning to about 5 or 6 in the evening. 7 to 9, I used to take classes for 3 days a week. And of course, they were paying me 50 rupees a class or something, which was great in those days, which was, I would be ever grateful for people like St. Joseph College of Administration to bolster up my sort of meager salary from Tata Steel. And what I learned is teaching is one of the best ways of learning in life. It is one of the best ways of learning in life. As I used to prepare for this teaching in the classroom to students, I began to learn the nuances of marketing, nuances of customer relationship, nuances of product development, nuances of segmenting the market. There are many things which I never knew. I actually learned during those 2 or 3 years of my sort of teaching profession. After that, when I got transferred to Calcutta, I gave it up. But that has remained with me for a long time, the passion for teaching. And even today, whenever I get an opportunity to take classes for youngsters, and if the subject interests me and if the students are looking forward to my talking, I always sort of spend some time in talking to the students. As I said, nothing was happening to my career, not too much. I used to get some promotions once in a way and so on. And I was generally getting a little annoyed, saying that my life is not progressing fast enough. In all those years, I used to read a lot of books when I had a lot of time. And I always sort of was interested in sports, cricket primarily. In later part of life, a little bit of golf and so on, but primarily interested in cricket in those days. And I used to watch all games. And one of my favorite sports person was a person called Michael Jordan, who was a US basketball player those days, and probably the best basketball player ever worked in the world. And he used to talk about failures. I was, for a long time in Tata, nothing happened to me. I didn't get a promotion. I was being frustrated. And in this frustration, I used to read books of people who have succeeded in life as to what they did and what they did not do. And I used to read what Michael Jordan did as a sportsman. What did he have to say about life? And there is a quote of his which is always with me on the table. I'm going to read that quote. And this is by Michael Jordan, world's best, possibly the best basketball player in the world. He has said, and I quote, and I'm just reading it from my table: I have missed more than 900 shots in my career. I have lost almost 300 games. 26 times I have been tested, been trusted to take the game-winning shot, and I missed. I have failed over and over again in my life, and that is precisely the reason why I succeed. I'm going to read it again because it is something which is sort of indelible in my mind. Just to repeat, I have missed more than 900 shots in my career. I have lost almost 300 games. 26 times I have been trusted to take the game-winning shot and I missed. I have failed over and over again in my life. And this is precisely why I succeed. Now, what it says is that, look, it is not the failure should affect you. What should affect you is getting up from failure. If you didn't get up from failure, failures are tremendous amount of lessons. And I'll come to that again after a few minutes as to what I used to do in my later part in my life when I encountered failures or when I did not. So this is one of the learnings, one of the things that sustained me, that good books to read, biographies, people who have succeeded in life, people who didn't have a good start. There are many, many examples that I can give. One of the things that I started attempting, by about 1980s or so, I was getting completely frustrated as to why is it that I'm not getting promotions? Why is it I'm not being recognized in the company for all the hard work that I had put in? It happens sometimes. It's not anybody's fault. And as I would describe just now, it is not anybody's fault, but probably my fault. I started one exercise around 1985 or so, and I've shared this only with the very close friends of mine in Tata Steel and some of my classmates and so on. When I found that nothing was happening, and I had to do something, and I had to think ways and means of getting myself recognized in the company, or getting myself seen by my bosses in the company for what I'm doing, or what at least I thought I was doing. I started doing an exercise. Every year in the month of December, especially particularly in the last 1 week of December, I will spend a few hours with myself. Spending few hours with yourself is a very important self-development activity. When you spend time with yourself, and what I used to do is, I used to write down in a piece of paper what I need to do to improve myself. The basis of this exercise is, see, when the human mind has a certain tendency of certain way of thinking. When we don't get good marks in the examination, we always blame the professor that he didn't set the paper correctly, or the questions were out of my syllabus, or I had some electricity problem because of which I couldn't prepare, or I was not well, or my parents ill-treated me. And so you'll find hundreds of excuses to blame other people, and there will be no excuse to say that I did not study well. The same thing, if you didn't get a promotion in a company, like I used to do in my younger days, the fault is always with the company or with the boss. The boss is, biased. He likes somebody else. He doesn't like me. He doesn't like my face. He doesn't like the way I speak. I'm too bold and I'm too negative. I criticize him, so that's why he doesn't like me. So we can give any amount of excuses for not getting promotion. That is the way most of us think, and most of us act, and most of us behave. I said, I must put an end to that. And even if the fault is entirely on somebody else, I will think the way I need to think is the way the fault is on me. And what do I have to do to improve myself? For example, if I didn't have a good relations with one of my colleagues on the board, I used to actually write down, what do I need to do to improve my relations? I would not bother about what the other person has to do. I would bother about what I have to do. I will correct myself in these kind of situations. I will talk more pleasantly to him. I will take the initiative of first approaching him. So like that, I actually used to write down in detail. It used to cover my professional life. It included many of my colleagues in those notes. It included names of colleagues with whom I've had difference of opinion, and then what action I will take. In the beginning, in the first 1 or 2 years, I had great difficulty even writing down. Because when you start writing down what you need to do to improve yourself, the first thought that comes to your mind is, what do you have to tell the other person to improve himself? Not you how to improve yourself. So it's a very difficult exercise. First 1 or 2 years, I struggled. And then second year it improved, third year it improved. Then I found that I could reflect upon that. And it became a regular habit with me over a period of nearly 20 years between 1985 and 2005 or 2010 or so. And it's a tremendously invigorating exercise where you actually see the result of your actions. My sort of career took a sharp tangential upward from the time I actually started this exercise in 1985, 1986, till the time nothing happened to me for nearly 35, 40 years in Tata Steel. I'm not ascribing only this particular event. It is a sort of great way to self-develop. All of us have plans. When we are a professor, we have plans to improve the institute. We have plans to teach children better. We have planned to improve the infrastructure of the institute or the university. We have lots of plans for the organization to which we work. But what is the plan that we have to improve ourselves? We need to ask that question. And it's an important and fundamental question where you need to search your mind to say, what is it that I will do to improve yourself? I have found in my life one of the best ways of developing oneself is to spend time with oneself, reflecting and introspecting and acting. And the action, introspection, action cycle. You act on something, then you introspect on your action, then you change your actions, then you introspect on your changed action. This continuous improvement process of your mind. We work in companies and we talk about continuous improvement of processes in the company, the products in the company. All that is fine. But what about continuous improvement of yourself? And are we not the most important constituent of our thinking? More than our company, more than our products, more than our friends, more than our relatives? Are we ourselves not the most important single individual for ourselves? So how much time we spend to improve ourselves is a question that all of us need to ask. And this is what I used to address. Around that time, in 1989 to be exact, I attended a program on leadership development. I was nominated by Tata Steel to attend a program. So I used to think, okay, this program is on leadership development. Let me look at what the course content is. And the course content is, I thought they will talk about how to market a product better, how to improve your technology, or how to improve the operations, how to handle people better. Many of these management subjects which are linked to leadership development, I was expecting the program to be of that nature. And I was a little bit disappointed when I saw the content of the program, and I will talk to you about the content of the program shortly. So I landed up in Pune, Tata Management Training Center, where the program was being held. And Dr. Raja Ramanna was the director of this institute called the National Institute of Advanced Studies, which is where this program was held. The institute is now in Bangalore. I happen to be on the governing council at the institute now, but the institute was started in 1989 by a collaborative effort of the Tata Group and Mr. and the government of India, where J.R.D. Tata felt that we are producing one-sided managers in this country and we need a wholesome development of leaders. And the program content was quite amazing and something which I did not expect and something which I did not even think was important. For example, we had a class on music, interpretation of music. We had a course on philosophy and interpretation of philosophy. We had a course on interpretation of what is called independent movement of India, or the interpretation of Indian history and the events and how they shaped the minds and the thinking of this country. So these are subjects where there is nothing on marketing, nothing on technology, nothing on product development, nothing on some strategies of a company and so on and so forth. And this was the leadership development program. I realized slowly, and it's very sort of important from an education point of view, that in life, it is not simply sufficient if you have functional knowledge. You need to attain attributes, skills, and traits that can make use of that functional knowledge to things that are useful in life. Like, for example, take the hunger in the stomach to perform. It's a very important attribute for a manager or for a leader or for a leader in any field, leader in business, leader in education, leader in religious activities, leader of institutions, leader of government, leader of nation. Irrespective of what kind of leadership role you play in whatever field that you choose, there are some qualities that are important, like passion to perform, hunger in the stomach to perform, ability to take failures, like what Michael Jordan says, ability to handle success, ability to work in a team, ability to be innovative and creative. These are something which are not taught in the schools. These are not subjects that we learn. But I always give these things maybe more than 50% of the total personality of a person here, and with a balance 40 or 45% to the functional knowledge of a person. So I have slowly begun to realize these are qualities which need to be inculcated through some system of education, which exposes the minds of the students to these kind of thoughts. Many of the qualities that I described, which are not hardcore, which are softcore, which are right brain oriented sort of subjects, and not the left brain oriented subjects like physics, chemistry, maths, and so on. While left brain characteristics are important from a analytical point of view, from a systematic point of view, the right brain characteristics are important from a point of view of creativity and analytical ability and ability to handle failures and successes. Many of the qualities that are required to perform the left brain well are contained in the right brain. So sometimes I also think that the education policy of a country, the teacher's role or the parent's role need to revolve around this wholesome kind of an education rather than preparing students only for sort of first getting a first job or passing out an examination. So I have some sort of difference of opinion and some difficulty in accepting the kind of education that we all go through, sort of nowadays. Which is why, for example, when this new education policy of the government of India was announced recently, I was very happy to read that document. That document, I hope it sort of gets implemented properly, and I hope it gets implemented in the wholesome way, and we don't take shortcuts and things like that. It is a policy which aims to develop human beings. The purpose of education is to make people question things and seek answers. It is not a ready-made answer-giving machine. We are all nowadays producing answer-giving machines, especially in this objective kind of a world where you put tick marks and things like that. So that is one of the things that I learned in life. And some of the things that this course in National Institute of Advanced Studies on Leadership Development taught me, and some of the things that that I learned from this introspection, reflection cycle of mine, spending 4 or 5 days or a week at the end of every year with myself, they stood me in great stead when Tata Steel went through a transformation process between 1990 and about 2010, over a 20-year period. We did a whole lot of things in Tata Steel. What was Tata Steel between 1907, when it was established, to 1990, for 83 years? We did some great things between 1990 and 2010 or 2015. And even now, I am happy to see that it is continuing even now. From an ordinary domestic company that we were in 1990, and not great processes and not great products and not great research and development efforts, it got transformed into a world-class organization in terms of product leadership, in terms of quality leadership, in terms of human resource leadership, in terms of world-class practices, in terms of continuous improvement, and so on. And all that has come about, not a lot of us did it. I give great credit to Dr. Irani, my predecessor, for that. But many of us were involved in it, and later on I took up the lead role after Dr. Irani retired in the year 2000. Many of these came not so much from a organized and systematic mind that college education gives us, but from a lateral mind that many of the other things give us, many of the other experiences that give us. So we need to find a way in our education system of balancing functional knowledge and with an appropriate mix of functional knowledge and knowledge that are required to use that function well, which comes from lots of other sources other than normal formal education. Just because we don't have a good means of teaching them, we are not doing a great attempt to do that in many of our sort of educational institutions. And this is a subject that we need to think. So overall, I'm going to sum up by concluding that, just narrating my experience from management trainee to managing director sometimes can be boring. After all, everybody lives the same life. Everybody has an opportunity to, become an MT from MD. So it's not nothing very great. And so I thought I will pick up some important events in my life and then describe the events and the experiences that it gave me and what sort of it resulted me. So if I were to sum up the overall life's learnings, I think I would say that there are 4 important learnings that I have learned in my life. One is leadership is a 2-dimensional process. One is what is called the visionary dimension. You need to be able to, and the leadership development programs, whether it is in schools or in colleges, because all of us are in the job of creating leaders for tomorrow, for whatever field that they occupy in. And those 2 dimensions are the visionary dimension. A person should have the ability to see the future, ability to see far into the future, ability to energize the people working under him, ability to enthuse his people, and ability to empower his people to, make some great superior performances. This is the visionary dimension, which comes from soft skills, which comes from right brain, which comes from emotions. It comes from imagination. It comes from creativity. Like Albert Einstein said, imagination is more important than knowledge. He didn't say it just, out of some quick fix kind of a thing. It's an important thing to have imagination. How do we develop imagination of youngsters? Is there a process of doing it? We need to think about that. So there is a visionary dimension, and then there is an architectural dimension. And the architectural dimension has something to do with knowledge, processes, systems, structures, procedures, putting things into place. In the sense, implement those things which are necessary for implementing the vision into actual reality. This combination is important for everybody. Everybody does possess this combination, but I suspect that most of our education system in schools and colleges are designed to produce the architectural quality of system thinking, of logic, of all that, straight line methods. Our education system are not designed to produce this visionary quality. But a good leader of any organization, irrespective of the field in which you are leaders at various levels. And leadership is not required only for business organizations. It is required for every walk of life that we indulge in, whether it is a municipality or whether it is a government or state or national leader or religious institutions and so on. And that person requires this. And this is the job of the evolution of education system in any place. So one lesson that I learned in my life throughout is that the leadership development is a 2-dimensional process of a good combination of visionary dimension and architectural dimension. The second is everybody must have a self-development plan. And we need to think very sharply about self-development plan. How do we introspect? How do we find fault in ourselves? How do we make course corrections? How do we improve ourselves? That's extremely important. That's the second thing that I've learned in my life. The third thing is, life is not a 100-meter race. It's a marathon race. You know, I have often seen people who are very brilliant people in the company, youngsters who come and join, and if you ask them what do you want to become, they'll say that I want to take your chair in the next 10 years, and so that you can get out and I can become the CEO of the company. That is the ambition that I have. And then they burn themselves out very quickly. Pace yourself. Do what is required to be done in the first 10 years and the next 10 years and the next 10 years and so on. So we must realize that finishing the race in a marathon is more important than the timing of the race. The timing of the race is important in a 100-meter race. The finishing is more important in a marathon race. And quite often we run this marathon race like a 100-meter race, and by the end of the 100 meters, we have no energy to sort of last ourselves for a marathon race. And the last thing that I learned in my life, and which I have found it extremely important, and I get back to Michael Jordan for having said what he said, that failures are a common platform of success. How can we make use of failures? In fact, when I take interviews of youngsters for any job opportunities in the company, I always ask them as to tell me what is it that you have not done well in your life? What is it that you have failed? And so most people, 80% of the people will tell me that they have never failed. So I get really worried, because if somebody has not failed, then there is time ripe for him to do a big failure, and that will probably happen when he is with you. And you need to be sure that you have a reflective mind which is able to acknowledge the failures that you go through and learn lessons from these failures. So I'm going to stop with this. I think it is almost 5 minutes to 1 or 1 o'clock, and probably I have exceeded my time. And first of all, thanks for the opportunity given, Professor Sajal Dasgupta. It's very nice. Thanks for your sort of persistently asking me to give the talk. And thanks to Shantanu Chakravarti, my good friend, and Kinshuk Roy. I can see him very well with his ever-smiling face. So nice to see both of you, Kinshuk and Shantanu.
Thank you, sir.
So thanks a lot. I enjoyed this session. I always, as I said, I enjoy talking to not only students, but also greatly to faculty. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So, Dr. Ganguly, I will request to touch upon to Dr. Shantanu Chakraborty to give small glimpse of his introductions about Dr. Muthuraman.
Right. So we welcome. First of all, I must thank Muthuraman sir for such an enthralling speech. Believe me, sir, your speech reminded me of my student life, and I had taken down a lot of notes. Okay, I've missed some, and maybe I'll again go through maybe some recordings or something like that. And I've already taken down notes, and the last 4 steps, most important learning that you've said, these are indeed really great. Now, without wasting further time, I request our Honorable Shantanu Chakraborty sir to say a few words. It will also be great to hear from you, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor Ganguly.
Welcome,
thank you, Mr. Muthuraman. It has been my pleasure as well as my privilege. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yeah.
you're audible.
Fine. And there had been a long introduction about Mr. Muthuraman because he's internationally famous. He was a leader of the entire team, and Tata Steel remembers him today. And there are some people like Kinshuk and me and others who remember him, especially for specific causes. I would like to take about 45 seconds to narrate a small story which relates very well with what Muthuraman said. Cold rolling mill for Tata Steel was a new venture. It was coming up. It was on its way. We didn't know what is cold, what is rolling, something like that. And we started from scratch. And one day when I was crossing from one of our buildings to the main building in the Tata Steel campus, in the main office in Jamshedpur, Muthu stopped me. He said, "Hi, how are you, Shantanu?" I said, "I'm fine, sir. Thank you. How are you?" He said, you know, how is it going? Because we were counting the days for CRM commissioning. 95, 94, 93, 92, 90, the tempo was building up. Suddenly Muthu asked me, Shantanu, do you have the fever in your belly? I said, it's a fever? No, I'm all right. Then he said, it's not that fever I'm meaning. I mean, there is a passion to do something excellent, outstanding. I realized that. I remembered that, what he was referring to in today's speech. Maybe after a couple of months, when we were nearer to the goal, I met Muthu again on the road. Maybe he was coming from one building to another, and I was going from this side to that side. And I stopped him. I said, sir, now I have the fever. He asked me, oh, are you not well? Have you got a fever? I said, it's not that fever. It's a fever you talked of long ago. And we know we are approaching the goal. This is the thing that I remember so fondly. It's about 20 years ago, if not more than that, 23 years ago. I can't forget that story. And rather than making it longer, I would like
Shantanu, would you allow me to share one small, less than 45 seconds, just in 10 seconds?
Yes, 45
Please,
seconds,
please.
your time starts.
No,
now.
I will take just 10 to 15 seconds. Referring to the same cold rolling mill project, I would recall a very simple thing, but it goes well with what Mr. Muthuraman said today. The right brain thing and about the emotions. The entire CRM team under his leadership is working there. Mr. Muthuraman knew each and every one of them by name.
By name, yes.
I mean, that was, today I have also completed 30 years of my professional career. I have never seen a leader, that too in a manufacturing industry, and in a CEO position, will be remembering that way. When he used to walk through the CRM project, anybody coming, irrespective of his designation, he used to know each and every one of us by name. And that I can never forget. That's all.
Okay, I will take over. I'll finish this with 1 minute, just one more minute. I think that's the best tribute, because I had collected it in my collection, a poem which reads, "That man is a success." And I think he fits it to the dot of an I and the dash of a T. Let me read out that, and that's the end of my tribute to Mr. Muthuraman. That man is a success. That man is a success who has lived well, laughed often, and loved much, who has gained the respect of intelligent people and the love of children, who has filled his niche and accomplished his task, who leaves the world better than he found it, whether by an improved copy, a perfect poem, or a rescued soul, who never lacked appreciation of art's beauty or failed to express it, who looked for the best in others and gave the best he had. And I believe that's the best tribute we can give from our side to Mr. Muthuraman. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Shantanu. Thank you so much. Thank you. Can we close it now?
Oh, this is the last part of this program.
Sir, it was indeed, as I've mentioned, it was indeed a remarkable experience for all of us here. I personally feel that even after working for 25 years, I have learned a lot from today, and it's always a great privilege and honor to be interacting with persons like you, sir. It's a great experience. Now, please accept our small token of appreciation. Just can we share our screens, please, technical team?
Yeah, I must mention one thing, Professor, that normally I would have liked to have been with you all physically, because
Right,
what happened, I'm a eye contact person. If I speak to somebody, I need to look at his eyes and look at his face, which unfortunately is not possible in a virtual world like today. The virtual meetings have got some tremendous advantages, but it has got this serious disadvantage of conveying a personal warmth through a face-to-face interaction. So that is
So I
something that
think, as a Vice Chancellor, let me invite you. I think this pandemic will be over very shortly, and we will lead to a much normal life in future. And then we will certainly have an opportunity to meet together physically and you'll be able to address to our students and the faculty at large.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I'll come.
Thank you, sir.
So please accept our small token of appreciation to you. It was indeed a very, very nice session, and I'm getting a lot of feedback in the chat box that the faculty members who have attended, they are immensely delighted and they're immensely benefited with the kind of talk that you have given. Shared your experience of life. It's indeed a great honor for all of us again. So with your good wishes, with the way Vice Chancellor has told you, we take this opportunity to invite you to EM Kolkata at some comfortable time. So we take this opportunity to thank you again, sir. Thanks to all the participants and thanks to the entire technical team. They really worked very hard to make these things happen. And thanks to the entire management of EM Kolkata. Special thanks to Shantanu Chakraborty sir and our Honorable Vice Chancellor sir for making this thing happen. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My pranam to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Can I call off now?
Yes.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much.
Shantanu, thank you. Professor,
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Kinshu, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.